Great. It looks like we're live, so just give us a couple more minutes to let some more people join, and we'll get started in just a few seconds.
Great, everyone's coming in.
Yes, I was trying to give people a little bit more time, but yeah, a lot of people are coming in now. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, knowing that people are going to be joining over the next few minutes. So welcome, everybody. We're really excited to have you with us on today's session. Thank you. We know you can be a million other places, so thanks for being here with us. My name's Star Carter. I'm a co-founder of Canaries, and I'll talk about Canaries in a little bit. But I'm going to be your moderator today. And I'm joined by my colleague here, Stacy Guillen. She is at Canaries. She's at Whittington, and I'll do her bio in a little bit toward the end of it. I want to get through. I'd like to get through that early on in the presentation. I want to make sure everybody can hear during this discussion. So if you're not on mute, please put your microphone on mute for us. We want you to be able to hear all the good stuff we're talking about today. And if you're having any audio or video trouble, you can send a private message to Stacy Guillen, and she'll try to help you as best she can with respect to the tech items. I see more people are joining the webinar, so welcome if you're just now joining us. It looks like more and more people are signing in, so we're just getting through the intro, and then we're gonna get started on the Q&A. So again, my name's Star Carter. I wanna talk a little bit about Canaries, and then we'll get to Shannon and the whole reason why you guys joined us today. So Canaries is a technology platform. The whole being of Canaries is diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm wearing my Canaries shirt, make your voice heard, and that's really our motto. We're a technology platform. What we do is we allow diverse individuals to come to our platform and talk about their lived experiences at their workplace. When I was a corporate attorney, and I spent maybe a dozen years in the corporate world, I noticed there was a gap between the initiatives, the policies that were taking place with employers, and then the desired outcome between retaining and recruiting and engaging diverse employees. And that's probably why 75% of diverse employees do not feel like they personally benefit from these initiatives. And so that's why Canaries was created. Let's talk about these items. Let's do so anonymously if you wish, especially because a lot of diverse individuals feel like they might have negative career ramifications, bringing issues or areas of opportunity up to their employer. So please check us out. You can see the name Canaries. It's spelled a little bit differently. Canaries.com. Check out our platform. We also have a site dedicated to resources. So we're talking about this video today. We're taping it. All the videos we've done in the past, including this video, will be up on our resources page. You can at resources.canaries.com. And so now let's talk about why we're here today. We're here for Ask the Expert series. So with respect to our ongoing commitment to inclusion, we started this Ask the Expert series where we realized a lot of people have questions. There's diversity, equity, inclusion. It's a complicated subject matter. And people have questions that maybe they don't want to ask in front of other people, or they're embarrassed to ask because they feel like they should know the answer. So this is supposed to be a safe space. And we're trying to encourage really courageous conversation. So to that end, if you want to network, please feel free to drop in your LinkedIn link in the chat to network so people can contact you after the fact, because really we want this conversation to continue past today. So we are thrilled to do this Ask the Expert series. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about women of color having a seat at the table with Minda Harts. Today, we are so excited to have Shannon Whittington with us to talk about LGBTQ+ inclusiveness and health. She is an expert in her own right, and I'll give you a little bit about her bio in a minute. But we want you to ask questions, and we want you to do so identifiably or anonymously, however you wish. And we want any questions. There's no questions off the table. You know, these can be things about coming out at work or transitioning at work, or if somebody makes an offensive joke about the community, how do you respond to that at work? So please get your juices flowing and ask whatever questions you have. So to that, we're going to open up with Shannon. I'm going to read you a little bit about her bio. I have it in front of me. I don't want to miss anything. So I'll read that in a second, but please note, she's going to start with the presentation. So we asked you guys to provide us any questions you want to learn about. You asked we listen. We've provided this presentation to really go over these basics with you, and then also open it up for Q&A. Try to get to as many questions as possible, either the ones we already received for pre-registrants. So without further ado, I am going to start with everybody, all the great things about you, and I'm going to jump right into your presentation and start asking questions. So again, thrilled to have Shannon Whittington with us. She's RN, MSN, CCM, and she is an LGBTQ plus health certified professional. She is a published author. She's a certified speaker with the John Maxwell team. Her areas of expertise range from LGBTQ plus to diversity and inclusion to servant-based leadership. She has a passion for transgender health, and she educates clinicians in gender-affirming surgeries, especially given her health background and expertise. She was greatly honored to receive the Quality and Innovation Award from the Home Care Association of New York for her work with the transgender population. She is a city and state lobbyist for transgender rights, and she's a vocal advocate for equality of care. To date, Shannon was presented virtually and live at various organizations and conferences across the United States. She delivers extremely well-received presentations on leadership, on transgender health, and on LGBTQ plus inclusion. So thank you so much for being with us, Shannon. I am going to stop there and stop talking and let you share your expertise with us.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Star. Thank you, Canaris. I'm really excited to be here. We're going to be talking about LGBT inclusion in the workplace. And I wanted to start with this basic flag. Hopefully you all know this flag. This is the Pride flag, which has a lot of meaning to it. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. I want you to put your thinking caps on, as my mom says, put your cell phones down, as my mom says, and really think about some of the things that I'm going to be talking to you about today. Next. Got a little bit of a delay with the slides. I know some of you are reaching out already. Here's the question. If I were to walk into your organization right now, would I stay for one drink and leave? Or would I want to stay for dinner? That's the question. Would I feel comfortable enough to stay for dinner? And I think that's the question that we really need to ask ourselves. And by being comfortable, I'm asking you, would I feel comfortable as an LGBTQ plus person in your organization? Can we advance the slides? Or are we frozen? This is what I love about Zoom. All right, I'm bored, I'm in your place, I don't feel included. Or next, I feel very comfortable enough to want to stay for dinner. All right, next slide. How does it look in your organization? Next. And next. All right, because this is how it looks. This is not a mistake, everybody. This is how LGBT looks in a lot of organizations. It's completely blank. And that's what we want to talk about today, how these images can be a part of your organization to make us feel affirmed. Now, this is the Pride flag, sort of newer Pride flag. I don't know if you all have seen this or not, but if you notice those two extra colors on the top, it's considered to be a little bit more inclusive. This was revealed back in 2017, I think, in Philly, to include Black and brown people of color. The other colors, red for life, orange for healing, yellow for sun, green for nature, blue for harmony, and the purple for spirit. Next. All right, so this flag is the chevron flag, and it pretty much covers everything. So I really like this one. It hasn't gotten that much publicity yet, but hopefully it's going to become more mainstream and people can use this because there's so many different flags for so many different orientations that this one sort of like encompasses all of it. All right, let's go on. All right, so I don't know if you were around in New York during Pride. I'm really happy that it happened last year as opposed to this year, right? Because it would be virtual. But it was great to be gay last year in New York with the World Pride event. It was absolutely incredible. And these companies just embraced Pride, the Pride movement. And it was wonderful to see that. because this is what we look for when we're patronizing different businesses. Next. So this is next, Stacy. All right, so think about this. You see the USDA organic sign, right? When my wife and I go shopping, this is what we look for, because it makes us feel like it's safe for us. You know, we trust the brand. So when we're driving down Anytown Road, USA, and we are thinking about where it is that we want to stop and eat or stay next, or just hang out, we're looking for imagery that affirms us. Next. I don't know if we're frozen or not. Thank you all for your patience with this. I think we are frozen. All right, so with imagery, click, you can't just like hang out a shingle and call it a day, right? Because that can definitely kind of bite you in the butt, so to speak, and you can end up being a little bit like Homer with, oh my God, what did I do? I made a mistake. So it's more than that, because what can tend to happen is, you say, for instance, you put a pride flag up in your organization, and you don't do any type of internal training around it, and one of us from the community comes into your organization and says, oh, I'm so glad you have that pride flag up, and the secretary says something to the effect of, oh yeah, they put that up here last week, I was wondering what that's for. And that can happen if you're not given the proper information. So this can cost organizations a lot. Next. There's a price to be paid for this. When we think about discrimination and people not being fully represented, it can come to the tune of like $64 million. I mean, that's a lot. People leave organizations, LGBT people leave organizations where they don't feel affirmed, and they don't feel comfortable, and they don't feel safe, and they don't see the USDA organic sign. In other words, the flag. So this is really important to think about in your organization if you want to be more inclusive. Next. Now, a lot of you on the pre-questionnaire were asking about these letters, and I thought I would go over this pretty general. The L stands for lesbian, two girls together, which is me. I've been married to my wife for 21 years. I like her and love her, and I found that out especially with this COVID thing and being on top of each other these past couple of months. G stands for gay, usually two guys. However, I say that as well. I prefer the term gay as opposed to lesbian. B is for bisexual, which means that this individual can be attracted to girl, guy, trans, doesn't matter. My girlfriend, she's bi, one of my good girlfriends, and sometimes she's with a girl, sometimes she's with a guy, and it's fine. She's totally fine with that. T stands for transgender, or trans for short. It's perfectly fine to say trans. And then the Q is queer or questioning. These individuals can be attracted to anyone, and queer means a lot of different things to different people. This used to be a pejorative term. It is no longer. A lot of young people have reclaimed this term. But if you ask a senior citizen, like queer, they would still see it as a pejorative term. And then we have the plus here, and this can go on like forever, really. You have the I, which is for intersex. You might see LGBTQIA, I for intersex, which means that these individuals were born with male and female sex characteristics. Maybe one is more developed than the other. But what I can tell you with intersex is, just like we're seeing a trans movement now, I really think we're going to start to see an intersex movement as well. These individuals are no longer hiding. And one of the things that I hope we really start to see is allowing these individuals to make the decision of what their gender is when they know that, and not at birth, which is what happens a lot of times. So A for asexual means that these individuals aren't really can be attracted to anyone. The next question is, who are you hiring in your organization? Are you hiring people that look just like you, or are you hiring outside of those boxes? You know, when I met my wife, I was so excited, you know how you take them to meet everyone, right? And so she met all of my friends, and after we got home, I was like, well, hey honey, you know, what'd you think? And she said, well, you know, all your friends look just like you. I mean, that's so easy. Why don't you try being friends with people who don't? And I looked around and I realized that she was right. And, you know, 20 years later, now I have someone 20 years my junior, 30 years my senior, all races, all gender expressions. And it's just been wonderful, wonderful to expand my network. Next. So having a diverse workforce means that teams can make 87% better decisions, 87% of the time. Now, I don't know about you, but I would like to make better decisions 87% of the time. And having a diverse workforce proves this, according to Forbes and a lot more research that I have seen and come across. Next. This was another question that came up on some of the questionnaires before a lot of you all registered, and so I wanted to try and break this down as simple as possible. This is called the genderbread person, and the way I see it is sex, hit enter, is our anatomical sex, what we were born with, right? Vagina, penis, or both. Hit enter, Stacy, I've got arrows coming up. And then we also have enter attraction, which is what our heart tells us who we are attracted to. Then we have identity, what we think in our head, and all three of those things are our expression. So the way I like to look at this is sex is what we were born with. That's our orientation in our heart, who we feel attracted to in our heart, right? I am attracted to my wife. So orientation is who you go to bed with. Identity is who you go to bed as, okay? I go to bed as a gay woman. All right, next slide. There are a lot of different gender identities that some of you may have heard about. Facebook lists over 70 something. I'm reading a book now that has over 200. But what I really want you all to look at, this top one here is cisgender. Basically, this is a term used that people agree with what they were assigned at birth. I am a cisgender woman. I agree with the body parts I was assigned at birth. But if you go down there closer to the bottom, hit enter, Stacy, you'll see binary. And this is the society that we live in, a binary heteronormative society, which means male or female. But if you hit enter again, Stacy, what we have in this country is a lot of non-binary people. There are people who feel like they don't fit into this binary society. Next. And a lot of times this can cause people a lot of angst, because if they see there's only two choices, you've only got male, you've only got female, and this person feels non-binary, this can cause them a lot of angst. Let's go to the next slide. See that male and female there? Hit the enter sign, Stacy. What I'm talking about is a lot goes on between that. And if we enter one more time, we can see here right next to that, that there's a lot of different choices. You don't have to just say male or female. You can have female, trans man, trans woman, gender queer, gender nonconforming, prefer not to answer. There's so many other ways that this can be expressed than just the basic male and female. Next. All right, that's what that looks like, a bigger version of that, male and female. Now, I hope you all know what this flag is, but a lot of people don't. Enter. This is the transgender flag, and this is the sign for transgender. And I have to say, of all the letters in the acronym, I really feel like this letter, trans, T for trans, is the most pathologized one. stigmatized. Very, very hard for a lot of these individuals to get accepted into society. And I know there's some trans people in the Zoom room today, so I'm really, really happy about that. And this is really dear to my heart. Next. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. I want to first say that being trans does not mean you're gay. You can be, but you don't have to be. You can be of any orientation. And that might be a little bit hard for some people to understand. I know when I first started doing this work, I was like, oh, I thought all trans people were gay. Some people are. Some trans people are, and some trans people aren't. They can be of any sexual orientation. So just know that and don't assume. All right. Because a lot of times when you do, you're probably wrong. I know that's been my case. So how can we find out and how can we know how to address these individuals? Hit enter. It's all about the pronoun. We want to get these pronouns right. Now, this is something else that you all, when you answered the questions that you talked about. Next. The reason why this is so important, one person said, why is this so important? And why is there such this focus on pronouns? Well, number one, it shows cultural humility. It shows cultural respect. Hit enter, Stacey, I got some things coming up in there. So you don't really want to make an assumption, just because you can have a guy with lipstick and nails and has a mustache and a beard. So the best thing to do is to ask. Enter again, ask. How would you like for me to refer to you? What is your pronoun? And then use that consistently. And what I want you to really be aware of is not what you think or what you see. It's what they tell you, okay? Be mindful that the voice may not match the gender that you think, or they may not look the gender that they're telling you. That really is neither here nor there. What is important is that what they tell you, and that's what term you want to use. Next. We want to be very mindful of the language, and there's certain things that we want to avoid. We want to avoid, next. Oh, it's saying we're in. Okay, so the things you want to do is avoiding misgendering. You also want to avoid, keep going, Stacey, offensive words, and unhelpful questions. All right, let's keep going. All right, so this doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time, it takes practice, it takes self-reflection. One of the worst things that you can do is to misgender someone, especially a trans person, that may have just undergone gender affirming surgeries, which is a whole other topic that I talk about. So if you do happen to misgender someone, just apologize and keep the conversation moving. Don't concentrate on the misgendering, because that's not why you're having the conversation in the first place. And what I just really want to say is, the fact that you're here today tells me that you do want to know. A lot of times people are not sure what to ask or how to ask, or who they're going to offend, like Star was saying in the very beginning. But it's okay to ask that pronoun question. And that's the main thing, that's the main takeaway that I want you all to understand today, and not to assume anyone's gender. All right, so I have one of the slides that has my contact information. My primary platform is LinkedIn. You can DM me on there, I'll always answer. And I have a book coming out about this, LGBTQ, ABCs for Grown-Ups. If you email me, you can get a free chapter, the first chapter, and I'm not gonna bomb your email or try and sell you some big program. But I really wanna get to the questions. Don't you, Star and Stacey, because I know we have a lot of them.
Yeah, great. Unfortunately, we had someone bombing the chat with some negative items, so we've been trying to clear the chat. We knew that was a possibility, and it's been,
yes.
Didn't
we say that?
Yeah, we talked about that possibility. It's been a rough week of hate in all communities, including the African American community, and a lot of things happening this week.
Oh,
So
yeah.
apologies to all our folks here listening. That's a little bit out of our control, and I think somebody wrote something about, we have haters here, so I'm going to repeat that quote. We do. So let me give a verbal apology, and let's dig into the questions. Let's keep going. We're not going to let folks stop us with this presentation. So first things first, we have a lot of questions about transitioning. And by the way, if you want to submit questions, please do so. You can submit them to Stacy if we want to avoid more bombing. You can either do it through the Q&A session, or you can shoot Stacy, STACEY @canaries.com an email, and we'll read from that email, and she can kind of interrupt. But again, we got so many questions beforehand. So we have tons of questions, but we want to also answer some questions now live if anybody has additional questions. But some of the webinar questions we got, Shannon, we're dealing with transition. So we had questions about couples and having one person within a couple deciding to transition. And they really have curiosity about how do couples navigate this, and kind of an add-on question we got related to this. We had somebody said they have a couple that are friends of them, and that one person is transitioning, and they have both revealed to this person that they're struggling with that transition and how that works within the marriage. So what can this person who's asking the question do to provide support to her friends?
Yeah, that's the main thing. Provide support, and listen without judgment. Just think about it coming from that person's point of view who is transitioning. This is a disagreement with the assigned sex at birth, right? It's not a mental illness. There's nothing wrong with these individuals. They just feel like the sex that they were born with doesn't align with how they feel in their heart, just like the gender person that I just showed earlier. So the main thing is to offer support. And this is what they need more than anything. I mean, it just showed us right now, we have people with very, very strong views about this. I've been doing this work for many years, and I've seen this happen on stage. I've seen it happen in the webinar. I'm not going to say I'm immune to it, but it always happens because people have very strong views about it. And that's okay. We're all entitled to that, But just offering support, because this is the main thing that these individuals need, and it's a lot to deal with. And this is a long process. You don't just decide overnight, okay, I'm going to be a girl or I'm going to be a boy, and that's it, and you go and you have the surgery. No, it's a very long process, because there's no going back,
Oh, yeah. And to that end, we have a question from someone who is a transgender employee, and they want to know, what can they do to assist their employer? They feel like their employer doesn't know where to go from here, how to address them, how to make them feel included. And it's kind of, there's this awkwardness with that. So they want to know, what can they do to assist their employer to create a more inclusive environment without offending the management team?
Yeah. Ooh, yes, that's a big one. There's so many online resources that are available for this to assist. The Friedman Center is one of them. I have like a whole YouTube channel that explains a lot of this. Maybe just have them watch like little small snippets, videos about it. And, for this person that's specifically asking, the person that they're thinking about may even want to know and doesn't know how to ask. That's a big problem in organizations. And sometimes, it's just kind of like dangling some information in front of them and trying to feel like, this was when I was like coming out, I was trying to, well, how do you feel about gay people? Just see if it's okay. Just kind of fill it out a little bit and then offer your support. Because we have to think that this is a topic that we're not used to talking about. It's only in the last few years that this has really come to light, that we're starting to see trans characters on TV. I mean, this is huge. So a lot of people don't know how to bring up the topic.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think a lot of these questions show that same perspective. How do you bring it up with folks without making them feel uncomfortable because they know they want to learn more? So I think that's great advice. We also got a number of questions that were very employer kind of focused. So something about the leadership of these organizations. What can leaders do to help this community feel more included? And we also got a question kind of on the flip end of that. What are some things organizations do without realizing that are exclusionary to this community?
Yeah, okay, so let's go to the leadership question. You know, I've worked in big organizations and small organizations with consulting with them. And sometimes, you know, the people that you think may not be interested are, and the people that you think would be aren't. So you've got to kind of feel your way out to see where people stand with that. And it's just a question. Is this something that we should think about in our organization? Are we thinking about having a more diverse and inclusive organization, and what can we do around that? And just to get people thinking about it, you know, when I speak all over the country, and what ends up happening is invariably people will come up to me at the end and say, oh my God, my organization knows nothing, but I didn't know we didn't know anything until I heard you speak. It's just kind of like not knowing that you don't know.
Yep.
And the last part of your question was, what was that again?
Sure. It was about a question about what do some organizations do unknowingly that may be excluding some of the folks in this community?
Yeah. So remember the blank screen? That's what they do. They do nothing. You know, you go into an organization and you see nothing. You know, I want to feel affirmed when I come to your organization, no matter what it is. You know, I want to stay for dinner, so to speak. I don't want to just run out and leave because I don't feel comfortable. Just some small things to let us know that we're welcome there. We just want to feel safe, you know? We inject trillions of dollars into this economy. There's over 9 million gay people in America, over 1.5 trans people in America. We are everywhere, folks. So you might as well get used to it. We're not going anywhere. We're not. We're right here. So you might as well learn to love it, you know, because we're in your organization, right? We're in Canaris, and everybody that's on this call, we're in your organization.
Yep. Yep. I love that. I love that. We've gotten so many great questions. I'm going to move on to another one about with respect to an employee who is already out. I guess this person who is out at their employer has to some degree internalized homophobia, is really nervous about talking about it. They may be out, but they don't want to bring it up, things of that nature. And so we got a question about what's the best way to support this employee who's struggling with this, even though they're out, but they may have internalized homophobia, and this person asking the question wants to help them through that.
Yeah, that's oh my gosh, it's so important. But the question is, does that person want the help? You know, internalized homophobia, that's a individual thing. You know, I've worked at organizations where I have not been out, and it was very uncomfortable. I didn't stay there long because I didn't feel like I could be myself. And then I worked at an organization where I was outed, right? Wasn't ready to be out, but I got outed by a colleague, and it turned out to be okay. But it's so much more freeing for me to not have to think about saying my wife anymore. You know, it's just accepted. So I think, you know, that person, we need to know if that person really feels like they want the help, first of all, because maybe they do, or maybe they don't. You can always ask, you know.
I think that's a really good point. I think this is a great segue to our next question specifically. Someone marked about their own experiences and say, people always assume my significant other is of a certain gender. And what do I do when they're wrong? We always know that people say he when you're talking to a female, and she when you're talking to a male. And when they're wrong, that happens a lot. Someone will say, oh, your husband, and you may have a wife. What do you do in those situations? How do you correct them? What should you do if someone makes an assumption about your significant other?
Yeah, that's the misgendering that we can talk about, we were talking about earlier, and that can create a lot of angst with people, a lot. Do you know, I was in Portland. Do you know they ask, like, what's your hormone? What's your pronoun? They ask that question, like, just like they ask their name. So with this couple who the partner, the significant other, keeps getting misgendered, you know, that person can introduce themselves and say, hi, my name is Shannon, my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And when they get misgendered, you just simply say, my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Now, this can make people feel uncomfortable, particularly older folks, I have to say, like Generation X, Y, and Z totally get it. Going to a high school, they totally get it. When you get a little bit older, not so much, you know.
Yeah.
Usually you just correct and keep it moving.
And move on.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going down the list of a lot of pre-registrants, but we just got a live question from Mr. Carter. How do you work with those that discriminate against people in this community, LGBTQ plus? And they point to religion, and I think this is a phenomenal question because you hear that a lot. People say, "Oh, it's my religious beliefs that make me feel this way." How and it gets very complicated when you bring in people who have certain beliefs about the community and point to religion. You know, how do you work with those people? How do you begin to try to change their mind, give them comfort, given that it's so deep rooted within their religious beliefs?
Yeah, I mean, just look at what Leanne is saying. People have so many hangups about this. You know, my mom always says, let every tub sit on its own bottom. You know, you be you and let me be me. You know, and I grew up in the South, so I totally understand that. I grew up with cows, chickens, and hogs in my backyard, so I never felt like I could live down there with my wife because I didn't want to be the lesbian poster couple, you know, because of the religion part, you know. And you're not going to be able to change how people feel about that. You're just not. Some people just feel like it's wrong and that you're going to go to hell, you know? So I think just if people feel offended, they can certainly bring it up, you know? But I really don't try preaching to them because I know I'm not going to change their mind, and I know it's just going to be a losing battle. And, you know, hey, if that's how you want to think, that's fine.
Yeah, no, it's difficult and it's exhausting, right? It's exhausting to fight hate, to explain things, and constantly repeat yourself and where you stand and how the community should be treated just as another person. So it's exhausting. And I agree with all of that.
I don't fight for people to accept me being gay. I don't lead with being gay. Trans people don't lead with being trans. We lead as being people who happen to be LGBTQIA, and it's not that different than anyone else. We all want the same thing. We all want to be the best expression of who we are. And we just want to be allowed that. We know that we live in a heteronormative society. We know that we live in a binary society, and we're fine with that. But what we just want you to understand is that there's more than that. There's so much more to that. And just allow us to be. That's it.
Yeah. Well, we also got some questions, not just in the corporate place and workplace, which is where Canaries focuses on primarily, but also in the home. So we got some interesting questions about being a parent and having a child that you know is LGBT, but's hiding it or scared to talk about it. How do you approach them? How do you open up that discussion and make sure that your child feels comfortable talking about this topic?
Well, it's good to let the child come to you, you know, but it also depends on what has this child heard you say about this population, because you know they listen to everything, right? Have they heard you have like open view about it? Feel like it's a safe view? You know, you can always say to your kid, you know, if there's anything you ever want to talk to me about, mommy's not going to be mad at you. I love you no matter what. And that kind of like opens up, you know, the door, because you really don't know how your parents are going to respond when you tell them. You know, I was a nervous wreck, and I didn't come out to my parents until I was grown, you know? You know, I can't imagine doing it as a child, but I was just talking to my colleague yesterday. She has an 11-year-old, and she told her mom, I'm gay, I know I'm gay, and that's it. And I was like, wow, 11, barely knew my name.
No, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
We also got questions about, it's similar, I mean, to the religious question, people that aren't open-minded, it's not tied to religion, but folks that make comments at work, folks that make jokes that are offensive, maybe don't know that you're part of that community because you're not out or you haven't discussed specifically with them, and that's a decision that you have made. But what's the best way to invite dialogue about this? How do you open up? Do you just ask them, you know, hey, I'm this, let's talk about it, I want to educate you? How do you open up that conversation if they're not specifically asking for it?
Yeah, you know, I had a boss one time say in a public meeting, you know, I had to go to this party and they made me sit next to these lesbians.
Oh,
And I felt like, and she looked at me because she knew I was gay. And all the other managers were sitting around and just waiting on my response. Like, what was I going to say? And I said, you know, I don't think this is the time to say this in front of everyone. But I did speak to her about that in private. You know, I wouldn't pull people out on the dance floor and say it in front of everyone over the microphone. But, you know, you can say something, which is something that the fact that I said was, you know, that made me feel uncomfortable when you said that. I'm sure you didn't mean anything by it, but I didn't feel comfortable. It hurt my feelings, and usually that covers it. They don't want to do that. They don't want to hurt your feelings, you know?
so you think a good way is to focus kind of on your feelings and open up the discussion that way?
Yeah, I know you probably didn't mean anything by it. I know you probably didn't mean to do this when you said so-and-so, but when you said that, I felt a little like maybe you were saying I was odd or bad for being a lesbian. Oh, no. I didn't mean that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you didn't. That's why I'm glad we're having this conversation. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. You know?
Oh, yeah. It's hard in the workplace because you have to, it's exhausting because you want to deliver a message, but you don't want to, you have to worry about offending them even though you're the one offended, right? And so I always have found in the workplace on various topics that are sensitive, a dissonance with that. Like, how do I approach this in a way without, you know, in my everyday life, I could be a little bit more in your face, like, what are you talking about? No, you know, in person, in my everyday life, but at work, that doesn't fly very well, right? And you have HR, you have things you have to worry about on top of that. And so it's always this dance that we're doing as diverse individuals, you know, no matter what demographic, on how do you approach these sensitive topics without, you know, creating a big firestorm at your work and HR giving you a ring and all of a sudden you have a target on your back.
Yeah, it's a delicate dance because you don't want to be known as, oh, she's so sensitive, she can't take anything, you know, oh my gosh, because then that like links everybody LGBTQ plus together, like troublemakers or whatever. So I think it's subtle and it takes time for this to happen in organizations. This is a big cultural shift that has to happen, but it can happen. And I've seen it happen. That's why I said on the last slide, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes practice.
Yes, it does. Okay, well, I think we have a time for a couple more questions. I know we're coming up toward the end, but I want to ask these couple more questions before we close out and give the closing and let people know how they can find you. I know we had a contact slide up before, and I believe you have a book coming out, so we'll do some shameless plugging at the very end. But one more question real quickly is about being a bisexual female. It's very difficult, one person has asked, being taken seriously when you tell someone that you're bisexual. How might we express ourselves without being over-sexualized or belittled or looked down upon?
You know, that's a good question because so many people over-sexualize the LGBTQ plus experience anyway. You know, I don't know. I mean, I think that's mostly here in America that happens. And my wife says that's because you all hide everything in Europe because she's French. In Europe, you know, we talk about things and it's more open. You know, maybe that's the case. But this is interesting because like one of my best friends is bi. Okay. And I think I said that earlier. Sometimes she's with a guy, sometimes she's with a girl. She's also attracted to trans people. And for her, she feels like society tells her she has to pick. She also feels like society says that she's just having sex with everybody. And it's just who they happen to be, the person they happen to be attracted to at the time. That's what bisexuality is. It's the person they happen to be attracted to at the time. It has nothing to do with having sex with everybody. You know, and they don't have to pick. They really don't. Just like male, female. There's a lot in between that.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good advice. I'm going to ask one more question. I didn't see any more come across in Q&A, but one that we received via registrants. This is specifically about knowing the right terms to use. Now, you talked about LGBTQ and beyond that, IA and plus. We talked about some of the pronouns, and you specifically talked about the word queer. An older person might be offended by it because it was used as a derogatory term.
Yeah.
A younger person might feel like we're taking back that term and they are proud of that term and they want to be referred to as queer. So we had a question about how do we avoid making that mistake? We don't know where people fall, and we don't want to use it inadvertently, thinking that everyone's empowered using it, and then we offend somebody.
Yeah, right, because different words mean different things to different people, don't they? Yeah, we found that out. So my question is always, what does that mean to you? What does queer mean to you? One of my buddies at work is queer. And I ask her, what does queer mean to you? Because it means different things to different people. That way you're not offending anybody. Just like all those letters we were talking about, that can mean different things to different people too. The bottom line is everyone is individual, and a lot of people don't really like labels. They just want to be. They just want to be.
I agree with all of that. I was trying to make sure that I was reading the chat real quick to make sure I didn't miss anything.
No, you didn't.
Looks like people are just giving. Okay, good. Thank you, Stacey. It looks like people are just giving you your props, Stacey. I think on that note, we're going to end. I think we got most of the questions. There's maybe a couple we didn't get to. And so please, guys, if you have additional questions, please send an email to us. You can email to me at star@canaries.com or Stacy@canaries.com, and we'll try to get that across to Shannon so she can answer that question. Shannon, I am going to close out here shortly, but again, I want to give you a few seconds to shamelessly plug anything. I know you have a book coming out. I know you have a consulting practice. I want to give you a couple minutes to tell us where we can find you, where we can find your book coming out.
Well, the primary platform that I'm on is LinkedIn. Like, if you want an immediate response with you all know this, just DM me on LinkedIn, because that's my primary platform. But I also have my website, Whittington Consulting, and then, I've got a YouTube channel up, Instagram, and I consult with organizations around LGBT inclusion, and I speak a lot about that because this is something that people want to know about. So the book is coming out this summer, LGBTQ plus ABCs for grown-ups, which will go into what we talked about today, but in a very simplistic way, because it's really not that complicated. It really isn't. And that's what I'm trying to explain in the book. So you can get a free chapter download if you email me there. And like I said, no high pressure sell, and I will not bomb your email because I hate when people do that to me.
Thank you, Shannon. Awesome. And as I stated earlier, check out canaries.com. Check out our platform. Check out our new resources page if you want to get this video recorded. Send it on to your friends. We also have tons of other webinars that we've done on the topic of diversity, equity, inclusion. So check it out. If you want to see some of our past webinars, it's all on resources.canaries.com. Thank you to all our attendees for joining us today. We know that you guys are busy, so thank you again. Please stay tuned for our next Ask the Expert series. We're in the midst of planning that, but sign up for our newsletter on our platform and you'll get an email talking about when that date is set for our next Ask the Expert series. And again, you can create a profile and talk about your experience on www.canaries.com. So please follow Canaries on Facebook. You can see our handle on the bottom of the screen right there, Canaries Inc. And we appreciate it. We hope that everybody has an amazing day. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay diligent. And again, thank you so much for your time, Shannon. We really appreciate it. And thanks for sharing your knowledge with us.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. And thanks for making this an important topic, because it really is.
Thank you. And the fact that we had a hate or join lets us know we're doing something right. So,
that's right. Let's continue to offend people.
Exactly. I give us props that we had something where haters wanted to drop in. So anyway, more empowerment to us. And yes, thank you again, Shannon.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.